Active Inspire board. Hope you are able to see the screen of last class lecture, right? Yeah, good morning. Today we are there to continue with our lecture, what we have discussed in the last class, or begin to discuss in the last class, the topic called braking performance of two-axle vehicles. So we have essentially looked at two free body diagram. One is the free body diagram at the tire level, and another one is that free body diagram as a vehicle level. So these free body diagrams are quite useful to get our quantitative measures. So what are those? How are we going to do is what we have seen in the last class, and we are going to continue with that to understand more physical insight in today's lecture as well. Right. So let me just quickly go through what we have done in the last class, and we will continue with the today's class, and we will end the lecture understanding an important application for braking system called an anti-lock brake system, which is an electronic feedback control system. So that's all on the agenda of today's class of this another 40 minutes of our lecture. So you look at one thing you should be very carefully understanding in this is this on this diagram. This I alpha, whatever I have written, where this I is, what is this I is a rotational inertia. That is mass moment of inertia. And this mass moment of inertia is about which point is about this ground contact point, contact patch center that's taken in this free body diagram. That's very important, right? Yeah. So then this free body diagram is correct. Supposing you are taking this I value is that rotational inertia of the wheel at the wheel center, then I would also have another inertia force due to the linear acceleration of the wheel center that would be in the forward direction. That I have not explicitly shown on this diagram is because the I value, whatever is drawn in this, is a mass moment of inertia with respect to contact patch center. Because when you draw the free body diagram, you should be extremely careful. Then only the equation what we derive can be useful to quantitatively measure the physical parameters. So what I mean by physical parameter in this case is this expression of 345, which gives you what is the braking effort that is generated the contact patch, is what is given by this. If we have this I value is mass moment of inertia about the center of contact patch, right? Yeah. And then we have also looked at the free body diagram at the vehicle level. So you see there, here we are able to consider a vehicle uphill, upslope, and then it is suddenly brakes are applied. You have to carefully see here FBF and FBR. So brakes are all the wheels for both the front axle wheels as well as both the rear axle wheels. Whereas when you are asked in the examination a question on find the traction, maximum tractive effort for the front wheel driven vehicle, you should have your traction only in the front axle wheels. The rear axle wheels are free rolling wheels. But I have seen most of you have drawn the free body diagram not correct. You are also have drawn traction at the front axle as well as rear axle. So in the class discussion, I have drawn on both and stating that in case of all wheel driven, you will have on the tractive effort in all the wheels. Otherwise, it will be on the wheels of the particular axle, which is driven axle. So that is very important. And most of you have not got that point, and I have seen the free body diagram not appropriate. And many of you have drawn a very poor free body diagram. So that shows that how much you are involving and interested on this course. So you are supposed to draw at least a decent picture and represent all figures or forces and reactions, very neatly. So that's not there in your diagram. So that is all also the reason why you have not been given full marks. Your marks are cut for those aspects that you have not considered. So coming back to our lecture, so when you apply this free body diagram, you're able to get the total braking effort, that is resultant effort that is possible at the contact patch, is given by these number of resistances, right? And we were essentially looked at because again this braking force which is coming on the wheels are dictated because of the driving torque TB given to the braking torque which is applied on the wheel. In spite of that is applied, you see that this value application will be lesser than that of what is maximum possible FB. What is maximum possible FB? That is dictated from the road condition, μp times WF. So the maximum value of this is μp times W. When you have your FB developed due to the braking torque applied is smaller than this, that means the wheels are not locked. When they are going to achieve this value, both the front axle wheel as well as rear axle wheels are going to have this maximum braking effort, then that is the scenario of ideal braking. That means no wheels are locked or all the wheels are going to lock simultaneously and the vehicle will safely stop with the shortest distance possible. That's what is the condition for ideal braking condition. So that we have understood, that is why we were able to use this free body diagram of a whole vehicle, incorporating all the resistances or external forces acting on it during braking to derive the normal loads at the contact patch. So normal loads at the contact patch can be easily obtained from the moment equilibrium equation, and we have got that maximum values in terms of vehicle parameters. And then what we did, and then what we did is we were taking this ratio of these two, so that we are able to say that the ratio is going to give you the proportion of total braking force that is applied, in the front axle and the rear axle respectively. This ratio KBF and KBR is same as that of the ratio of the normal loads in the front and rear axle respectively. Because the W happens to be common in both the cases, that disappears, and you have derived this condition wherein this expression is only in terms of vehicle parameter and FR, coefficient of rolling resistance value, and the coefficient of road adhesion value. So this equation helps you to find out what should be the ideal braking force distribution, braking torque distribution in front and rear axle from the brake system, is what is given by this KBF by KBR, right? And see that we looked at to realize that with an example case study problem of light truck of 10,000 pounds loaded condition vehicle, wherein 68% of that is distributed on the rear axle. 68% of the load is on the rear axle. So when you have that, you are able to find out L2 by L, L1 by L, and then we are able to substitute. Finally, you are able to arrive at the ratio of KBF by KBR as 47% by 53%. So during this condition, according to this condition, if you look at, it would be the case of an ideal braking force, ideal braking condition. So how do you say that it's an ideal braking condition? Is that the vehicle level deceleration that was achieved due to front wheel lock impending to lock or rear wheel lock alone impending to lock should be same. That is what is that here. So A by G here is an associated vehicle deceleration due to the expected wheel lock. So if all wheels are going to lock simultaneously because of this distribution of braking torques in front axle and rear axle wheels, so what you get is you are going to get A by G associated with the impending front wheel lock is same as that of A by G of the vehicle level deceleration associated with the impending rear wheel lock. So if you have this condition satisfied, that's what is called an ideal braking condition. Ideal braking condition. So that's what we have understood. In case you have this A by GF is smaller than that of A by GR, then it is the condition of loss of directional control. Or other way, if A by GR is less than A by GF, then it is the condition of directional loss of directional stability, which is very, very crucial or unwanted event in the driving scenario. So you see that this A by G associated with the rear wheel lock can be plotted. It will be of this curve, this line. This line essentially gives you what for a given distribution of braking effort or braking torque in the front axle and the rear axle. So as a function of front axle, it is given. So what would be the limiting value of deceleration that is associated with the vehicle just before the rear wheel lock? Similarly, this line FWL is front wheel lock boundary. So if your KBF is happen to be more than 47%, and if you project on this line, that is going to give you the limiting value because it's on the boundary of this line of this car, and that was the associated deceleration. So to get 100% braking efficiency, 100% braking efficiency is defined as A by G associated with the vehicle for the given road condition before all wheels are locking to that of the ratio of μp divided by μp. So this is what you see. So you would be able to get that when you have this point A is a limiting value dictated. So that would be possible for the chosen case study vehicle at 47% for fully loaded condition. This is fully loaded condition vehicle, right, of 10,000 pounds that we have seen. So this is what we were doing it in the last class and we stopped, and today we will continue with that. I have posted a question last class. How would you quantitatively say that the wheels are not locked? Or you would say that the front wheel locks before the rear wheel lock, or rear wheel lock before the front wheel lock in case of locking cannot be prevented in your vehicle because of the distribution of braking torque in the front and rear axle. So how do you quantitatively determine? That was the question. So quantitatively determine means there should be an equation of A by G associated with the vehicle level for the as a function of KBF. So that is what is this plot. So what are the equations for both of this plot? With that would give you the necessary boundaries where that boundary are dictating the safe driving scenario during braking. So that's what will be the starting point of today's class to go ahead. So let me look at today's lecture number 18 on the same braking performance. Look at that. This is what we have seen so far, discussed. So in order to quantify your ideal braking scenario, this is for ideal braking scenario, you have to find out what is WF and WR from this free body diagram. Whereas this FB is coming from a tire free body diagram. So we were able to get this expression. The ratio of this expression should be for ideal braking scenario. This equation that we have very well understood. That's what in the last class we have seen. And now we look at now, what do you mean by safe or safety during the braking or safe braking? So you see that the front wheel will lock first if this, and rear wheel will lock first if A by GR is less than A by GF. So these are the expression. A by GR is dictated by this expression. A by G, sorry, this is A by GF. Right? What do you mean by A by GF? It is a deceleration associated with the vehicle for the expected front wheel lock first. A by GR is the deceleration of the vehicle for the expected rear wheel lock first. So you have this expression. How do you derive this expression is what today I'm going to explain you now. And then we will look at that physical scenario, what would happen in this, right? So for the derivation part of this, I'm going to consider only the inertia as the resistance. I'm not going to consider aerodynamic force or drag resistance or grade resistance and so on, right? You know the total resistance in the vehicle or the aerodynamic resistance, rolling resistance, grade resistance, drag resistance, and the inertia vector. So these are the 5 resistances. So these all 5 resistance sum is what is your total braking force, right? So if that is that we have understood, I am not going to consider other than inertia rest of the resistances. So if I consider that, it would make me ease of deriving these expressions, and that is what I am going to do now. So let's look at for that purpose. So this is to define quantitatively our discussion, right? So what is that I'm going to do is, we know that the FB that is developed at the contact patch due to application of driving torque, and FRW, which is rolling resistant force, are equal to WA by G. Only I am taking this. I am not going to consider RA, RD and W sin theta. Those terms I am neglecting. So if I consider only this and this equation, let me call it as 3.55. 54 was the equation we ended in the last class. And then if I substitute this equation, equation into equation number 350 and 351. So these are the equation here we have. 350 is this equation, that is WF and WR. So in this place, FB plus FRW. So this is what I have. So if I replace this by WA by G, my expression will be changing like this. How? In this way. I would have now putting this in 3.50 and 3.51 would give me the following. So what is that I would have? My 3.50 would become WF is going to be now WL2 by L static component plus H by L WA by G. So if I look at in this, W by L is common, I take that out, W by L, and what is that I have inside is L2 plus AH by G. So A by G is what is deceleration of the vehicle, right? So this is going to be equation number 3.56, and 3.51 equation is going to be WR, that's going to be WL1, here L2, here L1 by L, the static component, minus H by L, WA by G, and that's going to be W by L into L1 minus AH by G. So this is equation number 3.57. 3.57. So now what am I going to do is I am going to consider this equation. The braking forces of the front and rear axle as determined by the brake system design. What is it? Brake system design. I will have my braking force in the front axle determined from the brake system, from the design of brake system of my vehicle. FBF is going to be KBF times FB. So total braking force that is provided by the brake system into this proportion, which is going to be for this. So that's going to be so this FB I can replace now. See, look at here, what is my FB? I have this equation. So FB from this equation can be written as WA by G minus FRW, right? I can write this from equation 3.55. So if I substitute this FB now in this expression, it's going to be KBF into A by W A by G minus FRW, right? So I can take from this again W by W out. So I can rewrite this KBF into W. So within bracket A by G minus FR. That's my equation number 3.58 as per the textbook. That's my FBF. Similarly, I can write FBR. That's all from the brake disc system design. So FBR would be, so that is going to dictate the availability of FB. And this developed FB should always be less than μp times W in order to ensure no locking of the wheels during deceleration of the vehicle. But if that is not equal to μp times W, what would happen? Your braking efficiency may not be 100%. It will be lesser than that, but it will ensure the safety of braking. But the stopping distance of your vehicle would be longer. In case of an emergency braking and you have to stop your vehicle very quickly, then if you are jams on the brake system, this FB happens to be reaching to μp times W, or it's going greater than that value, what would happen is the wheel will lock, because your skid that's going to be on your tire is going to go beyond the optimum value, and it would take your braking effort falls to the value corresponding to the sliding coefficient of friction of the road surface, and that would make your loss of steering control as well as the directional stability. So that is not preferred, correct? That's what you have to understand. So FBR is what is going to be KBR into FB. So KBR is what? It is 1 minus KBF, 1 minus KBF into FB. So I would have here again an expression W into A by G minus FR. That's my 3.59, right? So if having this equation 3.58 and 3.59 and compare that with an equation this, right? So what is that I'm going to do now? I'm going to have a conditional equation. What is the conditional equation? The front wheels approach lock up when, correct? Case 1. The front wheels approach lock up when that is possible, when your FB in the front developed should be equal to that of μp times WF, then only, right? So that's the equation number 3.60. If that is so, then you can now substitute your WF. What is that you have from this equation? What is your WF? W by L into L2 plus AH by G. So that you can substitute now here, and on one side you have this. So your 3.6 equation would become from the equation above written. On this side it is going to be KBFW into A by G plus FR, sorry, minus FR, right? Minus FR. So look at what is that KBF? Yeah, KBF W A by G minus FR. On the other side, it is going to be μp into W by L we have taken out. So within bracket it was L2 plus AH by G. So this is my equation 3.61. So now this equation can be manipulated, adjusted to derive the expression for A by G, because I have A by G in both. So now A by G, see on both sides W is there, so that goes off. So now KBF A by G, and here I have μp by L AH by G. So if I bring this onto this side, I will have KBF minus mu PH by L, and A by G, you can take it out. This is what is I am interested in. On the other hand, on the other side, I will have mu P times L2 by L, and I would have this KBF into FR goes on that side, plus KBF into FR. So now I require this. So here, since it is front wheels approach lockup, when this condition is achieved, so I would have A by G with the subscript F, and I would have this is mu P L2 by L plus KBF FR divided by KBF minus mu P H by L. So this is my equation number 3.62. So this equation is going to be the equation, and that gives you the plot in the graph. If I plot this, by varying what KBF. See, I have numerator KBF, denominator also KBF. So if I plot this as function of KBF, A by G here, if I take for the vehicle, I would have my plot goes like this. So it will be going something like this, right? So similarly, I can derive the expression for A by G associated with the rear wheel lock first. So that's case 2. Case 2, if rear wheel are approaching locking, when that can be possible? When FB R is equal to mu P times WR. So the same way what we discussed, if we continue substituting for FBF and WR from equation 3.51, you would end up similar expression of A by GR in terms of KBF. So that's going to be, here it's mu P L2 by L. So in this it will be mu P L1 by L, plus you have here KBF. So here also you'll have KBF instead of KBR. So that would be 1 minus KBF. Because I want to have only KBF as function of KBF I want to write. So I replace KBR by 1 minus KBF into FR, right, divided by, I would have now, here you have KBF minus, there I will have KBR plus. So KBR is 1 minus KBF, minus, instead of minus it's plus mu P H by L. So this is the expression 3.63. So if I plot the same in the same graph as A by G as function of this, I would have the curve goes something like this. So where they are intersecting, that is the point where you would have your KBF, which is an expected KBF, so that both the wheels lock simultaneously. So this dotted line is that wheel locking of rear wheel lock, and this is for front wheel lock. So if your KBF value is corresponding to this, and the corresponding A by G value is what is achievable, is the corresponding A by G value achievable is the optimum or 100% braking efficiency scenario or ideal braking condition. So if that is so, if I have my vehicle on a given mu P, constant mu P, say 0.85 road surface mu P, and I drive and I apply the brake and I have such plot, what is my A by G associated with this value of KBF? In our case it was 47%, would be 0.85. Then only the braking efficiency would be A by G by A by G is before wheel locks. So no wheels are locking, or this is the point at which all four wheels will be impending to lock simultaneously by the road condition P. So it's going to be 0.85 by 0.85, 100% braking efficiency. So the vehicle will be stopped at the shortest distance, right? So that's what you understand from this. So when you have this equation 3.62 and equation 3.63 are equal, that is this scenario. When A by G is less than A by GR, right? So what will happen? Front wheel will lock. So that scenario would expect the front axle braking distribution greater than 47%. So somewhere here it is there. I will have this is the limiting boundary to prevent my front wheel locking. So what is the corresponding deceleration? You see, it is lesser than this. So this value divided by 0.85 is going to give me less braking efficiency. So less braking efficiency means you would not brake your vehicle with the minimum distance. It will take more distance, right? As long as it's not touching this value for this distribution, there will be rolling of wheel. Wheel locking is not prevented. So this is the limiting value. So if it is not been touched, then your wheels will be rolling and stopping at the larger distance as that of the condition of 47% kpf. So that's what you should understand. And now it is easier because of these two equations. You are able to quantitatively do that. So irrespective of your vehicle, whether it's hatchback or sedan class or your SUVs, you have in your digital assignment the vehicle data, plug in them in this and then do such plots and see that of three different vehicles that you have chosen, what is that optimum distribution that is expected on a given road surface. So you put 0.85 is the road surface, 0.7 is the road surface, 0.3 can be a road surface where it is a slippery road, 0.2 can be a road surface. So if I consider, see what is the limitation of this discussion so far? The road surface, both the right side wheels and left side wheels are of the same UP value. Supposing they are different. So on left side wheel, I have different mu value, and right side wheel, if I have different mu value of the road, again that would be a problem of this. So this all no, this equation cannot be sufficient to account that. So this equation with the limitation of a given constant mu on a road, I can use this equation. But they are different on both sides of the wheels in the axles. Then I cannot use this equation. Again, that's going to be complex. So that is why we require an electronic control system, feedback control system, what is ABS, and that's what we are going to look at in another 10 to 15 minutes in our class, right? So let's go further in our thing. So this is what is the brake effect of brake distribution. Just now what we have seen. So same light truck case study vehicle, fully loaded condition, you have the sum is what is 10,000 pounds. Fully loaded condition is unloaded condition. So you see this OA is what is the boundary for rear wheel lock happens to appear, and this is for front wheel lock by plotting with those equations. And unloaded condition, if we take, again the scenario changes. So O dash A dash is for rear wheel lock, and A dash B dash is for front wheel lock. Front wheel lock. So if I have my vehicle, sometimes it's fully loaded, sometimes it's partially loaded, it's not unloaded. In such condition, my light truck should have this 0.1 as an operating point always. Though I would have a compromise in my deceleration associated is very less. So you see at point A or A dash, what are the corresponding value of this? That is 0.85. So what is 0.85? That's a given road mu p, right? So I will have 100% efficiency. So for unloaded condition, 47% cannot be there. 47% if I put for an unloaded condition, what would happen? I would have my vehicle here. So 48% if I put its front wheel lock a fully loaded condition, but the same vehicle is not fully loaded. I put this 48%. That's going to be rear wheel lock. So rear wheel lock lead to directional instability. Front wheel lock will lead into loss of directional control. The loss of direction control can be gained, will be controllable, whereas the loss of direction stability cannot be controlled. So this is what you should understand. So to compromise between this point of intersection is chosen, and there you get only 0.65 as a deceleration. So efficiency of your vehicle braking system is 0.65 by 0.85 on this road surface, right? So this plot would be changing according to this. So this is one case study on this. If I change this, I will have this all varying. And this is for the light truck. If you take the same scenario for a passenger car, this deviation is not too much. See, it is here. So the 0.1 is very close to this. So it is 0.8 and 0.85. So here this is for only driver operating or driver with the full occupant in the vehicle. You see now the scenarios are passenger car is different. So you can see that it is more loss in case of light truck. That is why the speed limits of the trucks are very less compared to the speed limits of the passenger car. So that in case of an emergency braking, you would be able to stop your vehicle before it hits. Whereas in case of a passenger car, even when you are driving at a higher speeds, in an emergency braking scenario, you are able to develop a deceleration in your vehicle compared to that of a truck is more, and the efficiency of braking, ideal braking also, even it is less than 100%, you are able to manage the scenario. So this is all something that you should understand for the 2-axle vehicle. If you have 3-axle vehicle, these plots are different. That's what the semi-truck trailer problem. You can look at it in your Wong textbook. If time permits, we'll do those problems later. Otherwise, we will restrict our study with the 2-axle vehicle itself. So I hope this graphs explanations you understood. And then let's go two important criteria to decide. One already we have seen that, which is braking efficiency. So how do you define your braking efficiency? It is, that statement is very important. So braking efficiency you define in this fashion. You have to say that before wheel lock. So maximum deceleration rate. So this is your deceleration rate. Maximum deceleration rate achievable prior to any tire lockup. Any tire lockup. So this is maximum achievable before any tire lockup to that of ratio of mu or mu p, road adhesion coefficient. Why I put subscript p here is there is also mu s. Mu s is sliding coefficient, Coulomb friction coefficient. To differentiate that, you can just put mu p, or it is simply mu means it's referred to mu p in the textbook, right? So this is one that you know. And the another one is what is your shortest stopping distance. That's very simple because we have derived this expression already. So what is that expression? FB plus all the resistances on the other side, I bring it on this side, that's equal to WA by G, right? So aerodynamic resistance, grade resistance and rolling resistance, all are brought here, and that sum plus FB, that is because of braking torque applied on the wheel, and hence whatever you are braking force developed the contact patch. So this sum is what is equal to WA by G. So now A is what is deceleration. A can be written as in this way. So you can write this as dV by dt. You can also write this by V dV by ds, right? That we have seen. So one lead into the momentum, linear momentum principle. Other one lead to work and energy principle. Other form of Newton's law. You put these definitions. So since I am interested in stopping this, I'll take this, and if I put that here, W V dV by ds, of course this G down there. So I take this all on the other side. So I have now V dV on one side On the other side, I will have W by G in and this is going to be an integral on both sides. That's going to be FB plus sigma R into ds, because this ds I take it on this side, so you have to integrate this, right? So that's this equation. So now ds I needed, so I can take this all down. So when I take this all down, so I'll have my ds on the other side. I will have okay, in this only, see, I can take ds on this side and bring it down here. So do it like that. So I take ds on this side, and I have W by G FB plus sigma R. That will be in denominator, right? So here this is FB plus sigma R. I take ds and then bring this down here. So this is in denominator, and I will have here VdV. That's my this equation. So if you look at here, this gamma b is there. This gamma b is what is the factor to account the rotational inertia of the rotating parts. Like you have gears in the transmission system and so on. So that is taken. So if you consider this as 1, the stopping distance will be minimum. If you consider this is going to be 1.03, 1.04, similar to that of what we have to also consider for acceleration. We have not more discussed on this mass factor. So this mass factor can be considered to be 1. If I consider this to be 1, S become S minimum, and my integration is can be performed. So to get S, I have to integrate this quantity. So I have here in top V dV, and this total resistances, I have one resistance which is the aerodynamic resistance, which is given by what is the expression of aerodynamic resistance? It is rho times rho by 2 A CD V squared that we have seen. So this all are constants. Let us call that as CAE. That's what is the CAE times VC. So V squared. So that is there in the denominator. See, these resistances are explicitly put. So FB plus rolling resistance plus grade resistance, right? So you have this rolling resistance plus this. How this come? These are only the final expression. So you would be able to have this V squared there here. So you would have same expression in the top. So there is V. So you make V here. See, the denominator I have V squared. So it's function of this. So the log expression comes because of the derivative of this is 2V dV. That's there here. So to manipulate that, you put here 2 and denominator 2. That's why this 2 factor comes. So put 2 here and take another 2 here. This CAE is what is this factor. So add that also here, CAE, and put it down also CAE. So that is how this comes. And whatever is there in denominator, its derivative is there in the numerator. So your integral become easier. That is natural log of this. And you see the first part and the same factor is there, that's why it's 1. And this is simple derivable quantity. And that's how you get the shortest distance possible. In case of efficiency is not 100%, you have that has to be put here. So you would have correct distance. In addition to that, there is the reaction time of the driver also to be accounted. So this is all something to calculate what is this stopping distance. It's again a simple kinematic equation of your vehicle motion, right? So from that you are getting it. So continuing with that, let's just look at now these tire dynamics during braking. So I will define till this point, and then we will look at on the next lecture what is the working principle of ABS, right? because of non-availability of time. So this slide is the concluding slide for today's lecture. Again, you see here, there are two coefficients, breaking effort coefficient and cornering force coefficient. So these coefficients are dictated or defined how this one is defined as this, whatever you are breaking effort that you have by normal load. Normal load is what is by the normal load is what is this. So what you put, it's mu p times w put. So mu p is what is otherwise called here this coefficient of breaking effort coefficient. So don't use mu p, instead use this term breaking effort coefficient, right? And similarly, what is cornering force coefficient? Whatever the cornering force Fy that you have divided by normal load, you get a value that is cornering force coefficient. So if you do that plot as a function of skid, you know what is skid? So skid is defined as you are applying braking torque, there is a stretch in your tread. So that would make the equivalent translation more than that of a free rolling tire translation. So you will have wheel center linear velocities greater than that of r omega, which is coming from the velocity of a free rolling tire. So divided by V is what is defining IS. We have seen that. So that's exactly what is there here. So that's skid. As function of skid, if we are putting these coefficients, you see that this is the plot for braking effort, and this is the plot for cornering force coefficient. So the desirable range is what is this range. So you should have your skid not to increase beyond certain value during braking. If it goes beyond that, what would happen? There is a rapid fall of this. At the same time, the available lateral forces also drastically reduces. So you have to have an adequate lateral force availability. That's because of this coefficients value for the operating range of braking condition, braking effort. This is to be achieved. So this can be achieved only through an ABS. So look at here, this W dot, omega dot is again coming from this free body diagram. In this free body diagram, we have to understand one thing. So here, you have to also put, see, it is put FB into R. So FB is what is there here. That is because of TB applied, you get an FB developed. And this FB into R, they have put it here. That is because of FB into this R, right? So that is not necessarily to be deliberately put here. It is understood. So this all are equal to Ig omega with respect to this wheel center is IC omega and MAC. So that is the free body diagram. So that is not there. Anyhow, this omega dot is obtained from this. All right. So we will look at and continue our lecture from this point in the next class. And we'll understand the working principle of ABS, which I also wanted to complete it today, but because of time limitation, I stop at this point. We'll discuss it on Monday morning 7:30. We'll have a class. As I was informed that today you have some guest lecture during our virtual hour, so I'm not taking virtual hour class. We will have class on coming Monday, right? Is that fine?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yeah. If there are no doubts, I would stop recording.